Hey guys, and welcome to another brand new video. In this video, we're going to be going and talk about the return now of the massive next-gen patch for Cyberpunk 2077. There is a lot of really brand new features, big memes, and pretty much the fact of it's kind of seeming like it's redeeming itself. I'm going to go and show you guys up the gameplay. I'm going to show you guys up next-gen gameplay. I'm going to give you guys the rundowns of all the massive amounts of upgrades and brand new patches that are basically going to come out for the 1.5 patch. And as well, I want to give you guys the quick reminder that you guys can still get the game up on sale, as well as many various big retailers such as GameStop, Best Buy, and a lot of them are also selling the game very cheaply. So if this goes good, which it seems like it's going phenomenally so far in terms of the brand new next gen update, I'd probably maybe go and say pick it up now rather than later, especially if the price does go on up, because it does seem like the digital price as well will also be having a nice little bounce back too now that the official next gen patches are out. We have a lot of stuff to go talk about, a lot of memes to go and cover, and as well, I'm sure you guys have seen some kind of the craziest stuff where there's still, in some cases, some pretty big glitches still going on.
On the suspension.
Okay,
But what I like the most is that
which you guys can actually go and see in the official live stream that happened earlier on today. But we have a lot of stuff to go cover, a lot of cool brand new patch updates to go and talk about, and the fact that it does kind of seem like Cyberpunk is kind of finally making its return, where people are actually kind of excited for the game once again. So if you guys are either going to pick it on up, play it, enjoy, or still a little bit on the skeptical side, feel free to leave your comments and thoughts down below. But we have loads of things to go talk about, loads of things to go and cover, so let's go and dive on into it. So as I mentioned, my boyos and girls, we actually have the brand new 1.5 update going on as of right now. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, we like updates here up on this channel itself. So there's a lot of cool things to go and talk about, go and cover, and pretty much everything else mixed on in. So for this is the patch 1.5 update. This is basically also dubbed as the next gen update. This will be actually adding ray trace now local light shadows to essentially improve up the lighting and the graphics. They now have implemented native ARC achievement support on the next gen consoles. So basically this too as well, it is a slightly different game when it comes to previous gen, so some of them may not be able to be transferred on over, although Xbox achievements will automatically be appearing on that. There's also a brand new feature too as well with the Xbox Series X Game Pass, where you guys also now have a 5-hour demo to go and check out the game and see if you guys like it and enjoy it with Game Pass itself. There is now two brand new graphics modes on the PlayStation 5 and Xbox Series X, with performance mode that's actually ensuring smooth gameplay, thank God, at 60 FPS, even with the dynamic 4K scaling going on too on top of that. So with ray tracing mode, there's also photorealistic shadows and reflection rendering, as well as the gameplay at 30 FPS with the dynamic 4K scaling. And I'm gonna be honest with you guys, a lot of stuff I think is overdue. The game itself was a very good game in general. I enjoyed it. I liked it. I thought it was a cool experience, but a lot of these little small changes basically go be implemented for us to enjoy the game. So basically, Xbox Series S has no graphics mode selection. It's just default over at 30 FPS at 144p. There's also performance improvements, which also decrease the number of FPS drops too as well. Better rendering quality on top of that. They've also now updated a balance at the HDR to basically go make sure everything's looking beautiful on every platform. There's many different types of various improvements too as well when it comes to audio, when it comes to visual, when it comes to like everything we mentioned too on top of that. There's also activity cards too for the PS5. There's also now Spanish voiceover support too as well. There's support for spatial audio too on top of that for the PlayStation 5. And there's so much stuff. There's also brand new 3D audio mixed on in. There is now also haptic feedback included for the PS5 controllers based on your actual controller and like what's going on in the game itself. And the controller's built-in speakers is now used for holo calls, text messages, and everything else, which I think is an awesome next-gen improvement. And it really does kind of seem like Cyberpunk is redeeming itself, especially based on the early initial reviews on everything so far. As I mentioned before, I really enjoyed my first initial playthrough on PC, but I do feel like the previous gen version was pretty much unplayable. So this is just a huge, massive improvement when it comes to this. But they've also added more content too besides just general improvements, stabilities, and overall. They've also now added apartments. We can now actually go and rent out apartments with a one-time fee, and basically you guys have a chance to go through this on the website with the Easy Estates website. Go mixed on in. They have a Northside apartment, Japantown apartment, the Glen apartment, and Corporal Plaza too as well. And you can also go and also customize the starting apartment too as well if you go and spend the $10,000 on it. So there's adding a lot more customization, and for a game that's supposed to be an RPG, this makes a lot of sense. as well. Some of the also interactions too, they've also added like more benefits to actually use it. If you go and you take a shower, you BPM like refresh. It basically also get more HP during combat as well. And also it kind of helps out with like the regeneration perks too on top of that. If you go and take a nap, you also get more skill experience. If you go make coffee, you get energized status for an hour. So all this kind of stuff puts together basically makes it so like your character gets more stamina or you get more skill experience, which I think is really cool for you know, RPG. And finally, one of the biggest features that they've actually made is you can finally go and adjust up your customization. So you can finally go and change your character with like the hair, makeup, and piercings and all that stuff too, which for some odd reason was a huge thing that was just never featured at the very start too as well. There's also brand new quests too on top of that with Wilson, where they have new weapon attachments, they have weapon scopes, they also have just a brand new store mixed on in. There's also brand new photo mode tied on it. Like all these massive updates are basically making it seem like this game is actually worth playing and actually worth buying. I also have like the AI, which we haven't covered yet. They've brought in multiple different types of fixes and multiple different types of improvements when it comes to NPC melee, when it comes to range combat AI and reactions, when it comes to them actually, you know, taking cover, repositioning, reloading, equipping weapons, dodging, blocking, pretty much literally everything out there of the sort, they're now able to go and change, and it just feels like you're actually going against proper AI. Now, granted, there's still going to be small issues with the world this big. Also, look at The Witcher. It took them like 3-4 years to get it right, but this is really big bounce back. There's also now different types of things for dismemberment triggers too as well, so hit reactions and death animations. So basically, like if you go and you kill someone in the game, then basically have a different type of response, there's different types of movement, and like they react differently, which is awesome. It makes the game feel like more alive. They're also better at blocking too, they're better at evading too as well, and also the heavier the weapon, the easier it is to go and hit too as well, and then the same thing for evading. So basically they're also making the AI actually work like they're playing. There's also more different types of diversification for melee and range combat behaviors for different factions. It's crazy. They also now followers are also able to go do even more in the actual combat itself on top of that, which is very nice. Just a lot more also various balances. And the one kind of big thing a lot of folks had was also crowd improvements, because I'm sure you guys probably saw a lot of like cop and weird memes where basically cops would spawn on in and the whole crowd would disappear. I'm sure you guys maybe saw that even when you guys were playing that. So basically now aggressive crowd behavior can also basically do combat if they're provoking someone as they're walking down the street, which I think is kind of nice. Like things like GTA, where some people start fighting you as they're kind of walking around, as well as also time skips also do affect the NPCs as well as time goes on too on top of that, and also just better crowd reactions, crowd improvements, people spawning on in, the world being more alive, and everything else mixed on in. There's also brand new drive models too mixed on in, which calls the burnout mode, where basically you hold gas and brake to engage, steer to rotate, and the old system will basically just allow just rotating on the spot and basically kind of lets you be a little bit more on the hardcore stuff. So you can do like brace stands, donuts, drifts, and basically a lot of cool stuff to do like drag race type style in the game to make the world and environment seem a little bit more on the, you know, a live side, which I think is awesome. There's a new braking system too with consistent performances from rear to front to rear, and basically all the different types of speeds too on top of that. The engine as well, simulation was also improved, so basically also had clutch simulation too as well to have more resistant forces on the engine and basically have a little bit more of an in-depth game. There's also gearbox simulation also put on there. Their Microsoft motorcycles are also improved too as well, but they also basically just give them all the different types of improvements we just went and mentioned. You can also now go do tune management and basically go make your cars a little bit more on the more especially side to make them a little bit more better and make them a little bit more just, I guess, more efficient. There's also adjustments in first person perspectives too as well, and just everything is just huge. There's also a lot more visual improvements to the traffic movement, for turning, for suspension, overall the actual amount of cars going on. They also have like panic reactions too. Like everything about this is just a huge bounce back. And there's also a lot of balance patches too on top of this too as well, where there's basically a lot of changes related to the economy. So you get more rewards from jobs, more open world activities, and basically decrease the prices too as well for cyberware and vehicles, which is very nice too, just make it a little bit more accessible for everyone. You also rebalance and improve functionality of clothing mods as well, and adjust the amount of modification slots available on clothing items. So categorize basically the mods for this basically go fit your specific item, if that makes sense, your clothing item. So basically all the mods too basically also got reset if you guys are part of this update too mixed on in. The easy game is also moderately a little bit more challenging, which is kind of funny too on top of that. And introduced also 2 new stats replacing evasion, so they have mitigation chance and mitigation strength. So now they're even changed up the core mechanics of the game, which is awesome for this bounce back. They also basically have a chance to go and kind of rebalance damage over time effects, which generally also reduce primary damage effects such as burning, bleeding, and poison. They reduce chance to disrupt trajectory by smart bullets by a tiger's claw as well, and there's also quieter ways to escape the NCPD when the heat's on too on top of that. So basically you can now all choose to go and hide if you guys remember playing old school like burnout games, kind of like that. As well, you can also now go and sell unused cyberware too for the updates in that one. Cooldown durations are now properly described on the tooltip on top of that too. It's possible to interrupt things now as well. Basically, you could be also have a chance to go and have double stamina instead of having infinite stamina. There's just like so much different type of stuff. Like a lot of like, these really small little baby details when it comes to stuff in general. And as well, combat. There's been a lot more, even more optimizations when it comes to combat, resulting in even just more of funner kind of gameplay and fights and everything else mixed on in. With a lot of different types of fixes too as well to reduce interruptions and smoothen basically the animations and make everything seem more alive in depth, kind of as we covered up before too as well. Also, when it comes to that, will also be more so repositioning. They'll also have a chance to have a higher accuracy. There's a reduced explosion damage up to players. There's a lot of issues that also sometimes like faction fighting was a little bit bugged, so now they have a chance to go and fix it. There's even more visual different types of effects, so like say the enemies using different types of stims and types of abilities. There's issues where basically stuff was being triggered as you were roaming. There's visual complexity being improved. Like basically this is like just like a whole entirely completely different game at this point. As well as also a chance to basically go and like fix up a lot of the quick hacking, because all the quick hacking too is having major issues when it comes to the kind of the game itself. And then basically there's brand new items now. You can basically go and find devices on an ARF. There's also like bonus items now found in stashes with DLC jackets. When it comes to NPCs, also lower the health of opponents on beat on the Brat, except for the twins too as well. So basically, those for the boxing fights. Basically for NPCs, they're all just a lot more cleaner, especially on boss fights and kind of big fights too as well. Some people also have issues where you couldn't even go break melee fights, and they had a chance to go and break that. There's also better clipping and better animations, as we mentioned before, as well. Also, sometimes even shotgunners now even do more damage. Sometimes even more sniper NPCs do more damage. Some people are also like less likely to go hit you if you're doing like a finisher to let you go enjoy the stuff. It will like rebalance the stamina. Like basically literally everything mixed on in. They also finally picked up the T-posing, and there's just so many major issues too mixed on in. And they've also moved and replaced up a lot of the also various different types of perks too as well, where they redesigned the Blood Swell, Human Shield, and Vorphis, Cold Blood, Coldest Blood, and Cutthroat too. And they also had even more brand new perks too as well, like Stronger Together too as well, like say if you're holding a body, Unbreakable, or basically you have a chance to go and just a lot of stuff. Commando 2 as well, where you can't be content underwater, like just a lot of various other stuff too, or maybe you have different just types of like just little small perks like usual RPGs too as well. And also some vehicles basically were getting fixed. All this other stuff were being fixed. They were being reworked with weapons, silenced gunshots too as well, also changed with the range. Like there's pretty much everything mixed on in. The UI's even been changed too as well, with new notifications on songs and better readability, better types of basically like scopes too as well. There's so much different stuff. Like I'm almost getting overwhelmed on this. And there's so many issues too, where like sometimes your game would crash or sometimes your mouse wouldn't show up, and just basically everything's crazy. There's also now been a few more even secret quests now being added to that basically you have to go and find it yourself. There's also different types of romances too as well, with like Panam, Carrie, and Judy and everyone else. So basically have a chance to go and flirt with them a little bit more. A lot more interactions in the homes of the love interest too on top of that, as well as also having some kind of stuff going on. You'd also mute the dispatchers. There's so much other various stuff you can mix that in all throughout this, in case you just want to be in the thing. There's so many different quests, so many other features, and everything is looking crazy throughout this. And that's only just the very start of it. So I just want to give all your thoughts and comments on it if you guys want to go through read the patch suits itself. But it does kind of seem like the game itself has also been majorly improved with graphics, audio, animation. It really does feel like a next-gen game. A lot of the big features have been kind of adjusted. A lot of stability has been better. HDR, AMD fidelity, multiple specs, and PC specifics as well. Pretty much everything has been fixed. Roaming resolutions and like VRR, even on PC. Everything has been being fixed on top of that, even when it comes to the also PS5. So this kind of seems like a bounce back. It kind of seems like this game has so many massive page logs, or just pages upon pages upon pages of new information and new stuff that have been added for Cyberpunk, and it really does kind of seem like this is finally becoming the game that we've been marketed towards, and it might be worthwhile if you guys go pick it on up. So kind of give me your thoughts and comments down below. If you guys do check out the next gen option, feel free to leave your comments and thoughts on it if you guys did enjoy it or like it or all that stuff. Make sure you guys are subscribed and notifications on. Same with the Samsung SSDs, Twitter and Twitch streams down below. We have a lot more videos all throughout today, but I'm so excited to get to go and dive into Cyberpunk again, because it does kind of seem like this game is finally bouncing back.